Okay, welcome back. That is Nathan. I'm still reminding you that is Nathan. So we are here and we're talking about autism because this is World Autism Month.
Yes,
and it is a month of love. We're showing love to the autistic, the autistic generations. Yeah, and of course, I'm reminding you that my birthday too, this is my birth month. And of course, I'm so humbled that we are sharing love during my birthday month. Now, what are some of the ways of taking care of autistic children or autistic adults? Because, they grow from childhood to adulthood. Yeah, and in most cases, people don't know how to handle these children. Like you had said initially, before you knew you'd go about beating up Nathan until you came to learn that really, I've been doing too much injustice to my son. So what are some of the ways of handling the autistic children?
First of all, when you have an autistic child, the first thing you must know that violence and anger and snapping at them does not work because they do not read emotions. They don't know when you're sad. They actually know, but I think they ignore. They really don't care how you're feeling. They're just
like they don't know.
Yes, they don't even know jokes.
Mm-hmm.
These kids don't even lie. When they become adults, they don't lie. You cannot ask them to cover up for you anything. Mm-hmm. They will not. Mm-hmm. Yes. So maybe what the society can do at first is when you notice your child cannot talk by age 2, mm-hmm. or your child is extremely hyperactive, mm-hmm. or your child is having some funny behaviors that other kids do not have, hiding under the bed, likes dark places, mm-hmm. always in the room, secluded, mm-hmm. playing with particular toys. Mostly they like things that go round and round, mm-hmm. spinning items, mm-hmm. maybe wheels. When you notice that your child has these behaviors, the first help you can get them is by simply taking them to a place where they can be assessed, mm-hmm. and you can be told what the problem of your child is. Mm-hmm. After the assessment, mm-hmm. then they will advise you. Your child can start therapy, and this is majorly behavioral therapy or maybe occupational therapy and speech therapy, mm-hmm. if speech therapy can help them. Mm-hmm. And once they start these therapies, these kids do improve a lot.
Okay, maybe you can expound on these therapies.
These therapies maybe are just to, like for instance, behavioral therapies to help them adjust in the society. Mm-hmm. For instance, autistic kids or adults, maybe let's say kids, are so hard to potty train. You cannot just wake up and potty train them. Nathan never went to the potty because it was really tough and I didn't know he had autism. He never even sat on the potty. And it was so strange to him. That is something he didn't want from the word go. So he was like always maybe just going to the toilet direct, which he does to now. But some of them are always on diapers until maybe 10, 12, 13 because they cannot go to the toilet on their own. So behavioral therapy, for instance, help with the training. These kids are helped, are taught how to fit in the society. They are taught how to brush their teeth. They are taught how to go to the toilet. They are taught maybe how to request for things because they simply take things. They do not know how to share. It's majorly behavior. Their behavior is being shaped. The non-speech therapy help them to develop some speech. Already they have the speech in them. But remember when we started this, I said that autism is a neurological disorder which affects communication. So they cannot talk. It's not like they do not know what to say, they know what to say, but I think part of their brain that coordinates communication is affected. Like for instance, Nathan can get burnt in maybe a hot sufuria or hot candle, but he will not feel this pain until 10 minutes later or 20 minutes later, because the communication to the brain, yes, it's slow. So anachomeka vibaya before agundia anachomeka, before he withdraws. Sometimes you hit him, but he looks at you and he looks at, maybe you slap him like this, he looks like this, and then he just does the stuff. Then 5 minutes later he screams. then the brain is receiving the pain like 5 minutes later. Their brain is affected, and most of them need like speech therapy. In this speech therapy, they have their chins being massaged, maybe an electric brush or stuff like that to enhance their communication gadgets. But I don't know the right word to use, but it really helps them. And I can say that ever since Nathan started therapy, it has been very helpful to him, and he has really changed a lot. He does not hit his head on the wall anymore. He has learned how to brush his teeth. He talks more, and he has really this huge vocabularies. Sometimes you wonder, where did he learn this? For instance, he can come and look at the vyombo, your setup, your cutlery. By then he calls his forks, spoons, cutlery. And then vyombo in general, he calls them cookware. Sometimes we wonder, where did this baby get the word? Yes, cookware. Kitamba used not to buy a cucumber kwa soko, but one day I went with him to the market and I was like, cucumber. I was like, what is this baby saying? And then I noticed he's saying cucumber. I had to buy this cucumber just because he said the word cucumber. I was so excited. I mean, every time an autistic child says a word, it's like really exciting. You're
like you having heaven on earth.
Yes, because you really don't know when they're going to speak, but you are always hopeful that they can speak, because there are those that do not speak at all until later on in life.
Now, autism, is it curable?
No, sadly. You just manage it. That is why I insist on taking a child for assessment. After taking a child for assessment, you make sure that your child can undergo therapy, or you can be your own child specialist, because autism is a spectrum, it's wide. Every other child has their own. It's not like every child is like Nathan. Not every child is interested in cars like Nathan. Some have their own interests. Like recently we have a group on Facebook for parents and people with autism, and there was this child who was really making nice stuff from beads, serviette holders, table mats, coasters, really beautiful from beads. And he's non-verbal, he cannot speak, but he can tell us, and he's only 13 years. It was really beautiful, we were so moved, it was amazing. So every child is different in their own way, but for all of it, autism cannot be cured. You see people like, I was telling you earlier, people like Bill Gates have autism. You see, maybe in their meetings it's reported that he rocks like this in every meeting, because, you know, he cannot stay still, so he also touch things. So he's self-rocking to self-soothe, or he's maybe twitching with the fingers, or he's doing something under the table like this. There's always something they're always doing. They live with the condition for the rest of their lives, but under therapy and serious observation and good schooling, these people turn out to be the best, because they have the brains. Akili wako nayo.
Do they go to the same normal schools, or they have their own special school?
Speaking of that, actually last year, January, Nathan started school. There's a school here around. Was going and play group. Week 1, I think they are learning something like shading or something like that. I think in 2 days he had learned everything. So he was just walking around the class. Around the school, everybody in school knew him in 2 weeks. And everybody knows him.
So it's a normal school?
Yes, it was a normal school. Wow. But sadly, when I took him back this year, they rejected him, because I told them he has autism. They said, no, we cannot take him. You just have to go look for another school.
So is that also part of
stigma?
Yes.
And this is not only to me, there's also a case on Citizen TV. I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was a parent who had paid school fees, paid everything.
Exactly.
They told him, we are going to take your child.
And then they rejected the child.
Yes. A lot of money, around 70,000. And then they refused to return the money. And now that is part of the stigma. Because they say autistic kids are like stubborn, they're not our tuli.
Now, what really causes autism?
It's not known. Because I remember back then, when I just discovered my child had autism, I started asking around, maybe from parents who have autism, to see if we can have same case scenarios. Maybe I thought I'd find a mama who had also had prolonged labor, and maybe the child had umbilical cord around his neck or something like that. Yes, I found very many, but I also found others who did not have such situations, but their child still had autism. So I cannot conclude that that was the cause, but maybe that is what I usually say.
Now, Juliet, is autism genetical? Because maybe there's some people who are so curious to know that, okay, if it's in your blood, then it's genetical.
That was also discussed when I started discussing with these women about the causes of autism. And at some point we said, or is it genetical? And then I was like, no. Because mimi kwetu, I don't see anyone. I have searched. After from his dad's side, we have gone through the tree, down and down and down, looking, nani anaweza kuwa na hiyo autism? Nobody. Kwetu, nobody. So I really can't say it's genetics, but I really don't know. Because if you Google will tell you it's genetical. So, but kwetu,
Nobody.
Plus many other people I asked. Hakuna. So
next time I'll bring a doctor on board, because there's a doctor who's supposed to be joining us, but duty, call of duty, so I had to excuse the doctor. But I'll be bringing that doctor as soon as possible, so that before the end of the month, World Month of Autism Awareness. So, just very fast, what would you tell to people who have a different perception about children with autism? Like, let's be very precise. The schools that reject these autistic kids, the neighbors who maybe would treat them otherwise, parents who maybe reject, because there are parents who also reject their kids.
Yes.
Once they know that you are autistic, you are like an outcast of the family. What is your word to these people?
First of all, about parents, we have a lot of mamas out there. Their husbands left them because their kids have autism. Probably told them at in Yakwenu, this is your blood. Now you're going to handle this. And it's really sad, and hugs to you, all the mothers out there who are raising their kids all alone. Sometimes it's tough, but we know how we go. Sometimes things really just flow our way. Because once you have an autistic child, you are a special mother, and God somehow chose the strongest of them for these children. And I want to talk about the society, these people who are stigmatizing kids living with autism, that you don't know when it's going to come on your doorstep. Because nobody's sent a warning letter. Nobody's told your child will have autism and then they ignore. It just happens. I didn't know. I am perfectly normal. I am fine. His dad is like very fine. He has no problem. We could not even think about it for a minute that maybe Nathan could have autism. So it's not about what you did, what somebody else did, what they've been doing. So the society should stop judging or maybe saying the child is not raised properly. I am a teacher. I would never have raised my child inappropriately. And I raised him on my own. I never even gave my mom for a minute to raise my child for me. So it's not about what somebody did. And about the neighbors, there was even a case I had where a neighbor's child who has autism was playing on another neighbor's car, and the neighbor came and hit him so bad. The point is still the same. You never know. Just learn about autism. Find yourself, put yourself in a position that you want to learn. There's a major problem with kids living with autism. They lose direction. Most of the time they stray away, and they're always posted everywhere and lost kids. And it's really sad. I myself have lost my son at one point. Just like a normal morning, he just ran downstairs thinking that he's down hapo kwa magari because that is what he does. Kumbe he had gone and he was lost. So this happens all the time. Kids living with autism get lost every day. If you find a child living with autism, you might not know, but the moment you find a child who cannot talk but seem to understand you, just take them straight to a police station. I would also urge parents with kids living with autism listening to this, you can find a band for your child. Anytime you're leaving the house, wear the band with your name and state that your child has autism. Put your contact card behind it so that anybody who might find your child may be able to reach you, and so that your child can be found. So sometimes it's really tough for parents living with I can say autistic parents, because once you have a child living with autism,
You're autistic.
Yes, you're autistic. And sometimes you behave funnily, people just look at you and say, when you come at home to talk.
Yeah, because you have to be in their shoes in order for them to understand you, for
That
the
is
communication
true.
to come.
Yes, yes. So sometimes, just saying, for the stigma to stop, people have to learn about autism. People have to blend in with these people living with autism, and at least try to know what do we need to do, how do we understand them, and stop being judgmental. The society should just stop being like pointing fingers and saying all the time, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this. It's already
You
here.
wished you were a kid.
Yes.
You visited some witchcraft.
Yes.
Really.
There's nothing that can be done, and like I said earlier, you never know when it's going to. Maybe it can be a grandchild, it can be your last born, your neighbor's child, your cousin's child. But just like we say, people laugh at drunkards because that drunkard is not their parent.
Yeah.
Once it's in your home, it's in your doorstep, you can never laugh the same laugh that you used to laugh before. So just learn about autism, make it your responsibility. Google. We all have Google in our phones. If you're watching this, you probably can Google.
Yeah.
Google, learn a few things, help the society, help people living with autism. And most of all, create awareness to anybody you can. Tell them about autism, tell them what you know. If that neighbor's child you're suspecting, approach the neighbor, ask them to speak out. Yes, thank you.
Wow. It is, with no doubt, World's Autism Month. Creating awareness about autism, creating awareness about autistic children, the autistic generation. Let's just call it autistic generation. And I am privileged to have hosted Juliet, mom to Nathan, who is autistic. And it's clear that autism is not witchcraft. Autism is not Illuminati stuff. Autism is not all about wealth seeking. Autism is a mental, is not a mental disorder, sorry. It is not a mental disorder. Autism is just any other disease that would affect you, like malaria would affect you. And it's high time the society shy away from stigmatizing children or people living with autism, or even parents giving birth to autistic children. It is no one's wish. No one really submits their letter to God like, you know what, sir, God, today I want this autistic kid. Nobody. And like I usually say, you can only laugh at a mad person in the market if that person is not your relative. That is when it's funny. But the moment it knocks your door, it becomes pain. So the same goes with autism. Let's all learn to understand what autism is. She has explained it all. It has no cause. It's still not known what really causes autism. You have been taught on how you can take care of your autistic child or your autistic neighbor's child. You can tell the signs of an autistic child and get to take the child for therapy and every other thing that would assist the child. So guys, that was a very beautiful session. At least we have learned 1 or 2, 3 things. And as I've promised, we will still come back with this session and bring a doctor on board. And until we meet next time, I was yours. Ako Nyar Konyango on Tell Unscripted. This is Tell Unscripted on Nyar Konyango Media. Keep on channeling in there. You can drop your comments, your questions. She will be there to respond. Bye. See ya.